It's time for a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. This time I talk with Chris Yaw from Cutter & Buck, and he talks to us about going on an epic road trip. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is not only a rock star in the industry, but as we now know, we're both from the same county originally. He's the executive director of Cutter & Buck. Chris Yaw, thanks so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kirby. Really looking forward to this and have been. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and in the interest of transparency, you kind of told me about this, and the last time that we talked, and we really haven't talked since then, you told me you were going to head out on like this epic road trip. So I guess I want to start there. Why did you decide to do this road trip?
So, we've all been stuck and we're all salespeople and we're all going, crazy, sitting at home and doing Zoom meetings and all of those things. Plus, I'm sitting on these 3-hour conference calls on how we're going to strategize to get through this thing. And, we're based in Seattle, and they're in their bubble, and I'm here in Columbus, and I'm in my bubble, and we're trying to figure out what the rest of the country is doing. And so I put this plan together with Joel, our CEO, and just said, hey, look, I need to go see with my eyes what's going on with the rest of the country. And I hadn't seen most of my sales team since last July, which was our sales meeting in Seattle. and I know that they're all going stir crazy as well. So I put together this plan and kind of mapped out all the states that were open, so I didn't hit any hot spots. So put that plan together and then figured out how I was going to pay for it, because we had gotten rid of our entire T&E budget, and so I camped the majority of the way. So in doing that, then I had to figure out, all the stuff I needed to bring. And I packed 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks worth of food. And I had recently, last year I had done this military mission, and I'm not a military guy, but I got involved with this group, which I'm going to plug right here, called Project Reload, which is a really cool group that helps retired vets transition into corporate America.
Cool.
So through that thing, I was at Camp Grayling up in northern Michigan for 4 days, camping in a pup tent and eating MREs. Do you know what an MRE is?
I do. Yeah, those are delicious.
Yeah, so on my Insta page, I lay that out and show how delicious those things look and easy to make.
Right.
So I packed 2 weeks worth of MREs, and eventually I had to stop at a real restaurant and eat some real food. So we put it together, and I mapped it all out and communicated with all the reps in the areas that I was going to go to, and basically I was on this mission. The whole objective of it was not only to see what's going on in the country, but to find out what Cutter & Buck is missing. Because we're this retail brand in the promotional market. We've been here for 25 years, and we've had great growth the past 6 years straight. But I still feel like there's something we're missing. So I went to seek that out. So I was seeking out to see what was happening in the country, because if you watch the news, the place is falling apart.
Right.
And, find out how customers survived through this thing. And, the amazing thing about that is this industry is there's so much ingenuity in these people and entrepreneurship, and attacking the PPE business was amazing. That what people did. I mean, I was telling somebody today, it was like, I met one customer and I think they were in Indianapolis, or maybe it was in Idaho, I can't remember, but they had, they had showed me a picture of week 1 of making masks, and it was 2 people in a room with a sewing machine, right? And then it evolved into they were able to source it. And then another company decided to make their own sanitizer. So they had all this equipment to make sanitizer, and then they aligned themselves with a distillery, and now they were just pouring it into the individual bottles, but people were surviving, and it was amazing. And it was proud to watch and see all these great things that people did to help and to keep their businesses alive. So I made this journey. I'll just say I drove 7,382 miles on this trip.
Wow.
So I went, I started the trip on July 3rd and went to Hoosier National Forest because I love Bloomington, and I don't know if it was a good choice or bad choice because it was crazy down there and it was hot. And it was like 98 degrees and I think 100% humidity. And I did this thing. I planned this whole thing out, like, how do you camp across the country? And I found this really cool, and I'm going to give them a plug, called Hip Camp. It's an app. It's basically like Airbnb for camping, and you camp on private property.
That's cool.
So I found this really cool place down there that actually had an outdoor shower that saved my life because I never turned the hot water on. It was just cold. It felt so good. But then I realized eventually I need to find a hot shower because you can't get the stink off of you if I'm going to see customers.
I love that, man.
You got to get yourself, a good hot rinse. But I started in Indy and then went to KC, Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Denver. Then that was the weekend, and I left Denver Friday afternoon. It was 107, dry heat. Right? Right.
I always love that.
Yeah. And then I went up into the Rockies and camped they call it the top of the Rockies. It's like somewhere between Leadville and Aspen, a place called Twin Lakes. And I was camping at 10,000 feet, and I woke up the next morning, it was 43. And it felt fantastic. So then I didn't have a signal. And I'm like, what am I going to do today? And I was either going to go fly fish down on Twin Lakes, but then I pulled out the good old Atlas, like the big one, you always had. And I realized I was only 3 hours from Arches, or Moab, so southern Utah.
Okay.
So I jumped in the car, stopped in Eagle, saw some friends, had some lunch, and then made it to there, and just had an epic day on Sunday. Wow. Marching around those places. So you can see that on the Walkabout Yaw Instagram page. It was pretty incredible. And, this whole trip, I think my pulse just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping as you see this beautiful country. And you actually see things are happening, right? Like I would not only just go see my rep and my customers, I really want to put eyes on the economies in there too. So I would drive through the towns or the cities and see what was happening. And, it's totally opposite what you hear on the news. And I will tell you that, Kirby, it was 100% positive experience. People that I met, the places that I saw, this beautiful country, we live in an amazing place. And then there was no tension. I never ran across any sort of negativity. And everyone was following, the protocols. So it was, really? You wear your masks, and, there are some people that don't, and I just don't go there. And, you got to take care of yourself and take care of others. But so then I made it all the way. I did work in around the Gulf in Idaho.
Nice.
So I had, and you can see it, I had the car totally packed up. I had a 15-foot kayak, a 7-foot hard case pod. Everything was organized in cases in the car. And then I had the tray on the back with friends of mine in our industry gave me a Patriot cooler. It was the guys from Still Serving. They're awesome. That's who I did the Project Reload with. Mm-hmm. And then 2 gas cans, because once you get to Montana, you're gonna need gas.
Okay. That's
actually,
I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah.
I never had to use the gas, but I did have to use it when I went to Rushmore on the way back, because there's this crazy road called Iron Mountain Road, and there was an accident. I had to turn around and go back, and I had no gas, so I finally had to use one, and I was glad I had it.
But you were prepared, yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, because it sounds like again, my next question was going to be how'd it go, but it sounds like it went incredibly well. But I want to go a little bit different and say, so you had a plan. Did it go exactly according to plan? Did it go completely different? How was that?
Yeah. So the plan, I did have to deviate from the plan. And so I found myself, working in an area for most of the day, and then, just trucking it to the next place, because I was going to run, this thing was going to go from 3 weeks to 5 weeks if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I needed to get back for my son's official graduation. They actually had a ceremony. So I got back the day before.
Okay.
I was driving 12 hours straight one day to get back. But But yeah, the other part of the plan, the camping part, kind of fell apart a little bit just because of the weather. It was so hot.
Yeah.
And so I did have to hotel a couple of nights, and I stayed with some friends in Idaho and in Seattle. And then my sales rep in Seattle has a house on Lake Wenatchee.
Mhm.
And I stayed there, but I did camp because I didn't want to put them at risk with their little kids.
Yeah,
So
no, that's cool.
yeah,
Well,
but yeah, so that part of it was interesting. You find creative ways to find clean restrooms when you're doing this.
yeah, and I mean that's something that we as salespeople do, at least historically,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
like
So
I was,
it
I'm
used to
used
be
to that.
Starbucks, right? Starbucks was the way to go because you get your own room basically. But they were all shut down. So I found Best Buys and Home Depots. So thank you,
Yeah, that's fair.
companies.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what are some things you sort of learned, like from the trip? What are there any lessons like that we could learn, or anything that you kind of took away?
So the biggest thing I would tell someone that I took out of this thing was patience. Like, you gotta be, if you're gonna do something like this, you gotta go with the flow, and things roll as they are, and you don't stress. You'll figure it out. I had the car set up, Kirby, that if I couldn't find a place to stay, I could sleep in the car,
Yeah. Okay.
like legitimately, not in the front seat. So it was a very relaxing. I mean, it was hard, the driving and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm going to plug Volkswagen. I drove a Volkswagen Atlas, and it was the most comfortable trip ever
Okay.
for that many miles. But yeah, so the takeaway was learn patience, or have patience. People are good.
Mm.
The people of this country are good.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone that I experienced was fantastic. And again, I'm, the customers that I met, I'm very proud of all of them, and the people that have worked so hard to again, help and, keep their people safe, and, as many people as we can keep employed as possible. We went through massive layoffs, which is super unfortunate. I hated letting go of all those people. And that was another thing. The stress level of the first 6 weeks of this thing was, over the top. But yeah, I mean, and for our company, I learned a lot, and I've taken a lot. I just got off a 3-hour call with our CEO, talking about the things that I learned and the things that we got to do better.
Yeah.
And so we can support this industry better. So yeah, there was a lot that I got to take out of it.
That is, this is really cool. And Chris, I really appreciate you kind of telling me the story. You, like I said, you told me in advance you're going to do it. And I'm like, when you are done, we got to chat. So I appreciate you taking the time. So you've answered my 3 questions. Always give everybody a chance to ask me a question. Do you have one for me?
Yeah, so I'll ask you. I mean, since this is a industry thing, and I'm sporting my Cutter and Buck / I got to get a plug here. Can you see the logo? It's over here. Right. So that's our sister company. We're all owned by the New Wave Group. But I'll ask you, what are we missing in this industry? You've been in this a long time. You wear our stuff. I've seen you in it.
Yeah.
Again, Kirby, like part of the objective was to see customers that only work with us sporadically and not regularly. And I was just trying to get my head around that. So what are your thoughts? And we're totally transparent at Cutter and Buck, and want to learn.
Yeah, no. And I think that's a fair question. I think one of the challenges that, organizations like ours, we're not one of the big boys in our industry, is I think the bandwidth, right? We've got so many really good apparel suppliers that the challenge you have is getting top of mind. Because when we get a call that says, hey, I need this, I need for a golf event, or I need a this, or I need a that, I'm gonna think of 3, right? Like that's just, I think that's human nature. And
that's the human part, right?
Yeah. And so,
capacity, yeah.
And, I personally have had multiple times with Cutter and Buck and with other apparel suppliers where I'm like, damn, why didn't I think of them in that moment? And things are happening so quickly that you just make a quick decision. So, I think that it's not that there's a piece that's missing. I mean, I think between Click and Cutter and Buck, you've got, a gamut of price, but I think it's really a matter of figuring out a way to be top of mind on a regular basis on those folks who get it, right? They're sporadic customers, so they get the brand, but how do we get it so they think of you every time somebody mentions the word corporate apparel or
Right,
shirts
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's it. It's not that there's a missing piece. It's just I don't know, a repeatability.
So can I ask you a second question?
Sure.
Can I buy a second question from you?
You can, absolutely.
It'll be a cut and buck item heading your way.
Okay.
So how is your company and others in your network handling the in-person business right now? Like you going to the, you guys going out to see your customers or people, from our company or, people in our industry coming to see you. How are you guys handling that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for my customers, let's go that way first. I have some clients who are like, yeah, come by. And if they are comfortable with me coming, I am comfortable with going. I leave my sales team, they decide that for themselves, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we mask up, we do the social distancing thing. And it's funny, some of them, you walk in and they say, you don't have to wear that mask. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as I'm staying away from you, I'm good. But then there are some who don't say a word and we just go through the whole thing like that. Others,
Right.
if they don't want to, I mean, just like a lot of us, we're doing more Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And I'm not I think I like Zoom meetings more than other people do. I want to see people's face. I want to see if the joke landed. I want to see if they're interested. Right. So there's that. When it comes to suppliers coming to see us, we're definitely doing the Zoom meeting. I actually think we're seeing more suppliers right now.
Yeah.
Because, we're from Coshocton, Ohio. You got to want to come here, right? Like it's not on the way. And so for, some of our reps who come from New York or St. Louis or wherever, we hop on a Zoom call when they want to. So we're happy with that.
Yeah,
I actually am comfortable. I think I personally am comfortable with them coming to see us, but we haven't had one yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. It's interesting. When I started into this thing, I would look at each state every day, which one I was going into next, and read what their protocols were. But then I just finally decided just do the most extreme. And then if they tell you to take the mask off, I would be like, and I adopted a new term instead of social distancing. I started using physical distancing because I felt my isolation of what I was doing was more the social distance of, camping in the middle of nowhere every night by yourself.
Right.
But when I would say that, it was interesting. When I would say physical distancing, everyone would automatically take like 2 steps back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that worked out. But then there were some places that they didn't. And, I would just make my visit very short and keep a mask on and move on.
Respect. Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks for telling your story. I really appreciate it. And again, we'll have to have you on again sometime. Okay.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. It was great, Kirby. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.